Hello, welcome to the Nigerian Investors Podcast, the unofficial podcast that tracks and reports on the activities of the Nigerian boss. My name is Moody, and with my colleague Aye, we will be hosting this podcast. TNI Podcast is dedicated to stimulating a renewed enthusiasm among the general population with regard to the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Ultimately, the goal of TNI is to see that many Nigerians from all walks of life, both at home and in the diasporas, become active participants on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Before we go further, we would like to place on record, TNI Podcast is solely for educational purposes and not a replacement for professional financial advice. Let's begin. Welcome to the Nigerian Investors Podcast, TNI for short. Aye is here with me as usual. Today we have a very important person. Today we're having our very first interview. Very first interview, and we decided to bring in someone that is experienced, someone with over 3 decades of investing in the Nigerian stock market as a retail investor. He has a lot of information to share, and he has a lot of experiences to share with us today. And we think this is one of the best episodes we are hosting ever. And you will find out at the end of this episode, I can assure you that he's a pharmacist Olatayo Onabule.
You are welcome, Mr. Tayo.
You're welcome.
We've been chatting and back and forth on the YouTube platform. But now we finally get to meet one-on-one, and this is truly an honor. And we hope we can learn a lot from you today, and even more. We even hope to bring you back. We hope to bring you back on subsequent episodes in the future.
I'm available.
Thank you.
I want people to come up. You can see my children on the platform, Seth. Just come up. The world is open, please, my brother.
That's the goal for TNI. So that's why we're trying to do this podcast to educate people, because the more they know about it, the more they do it.
That's good.
Our goal is that everybody that is in Nigeria or wherever they find themselves, they should be able to learn this financial literacy and be able to key into this investment. So that's just the way it is.
That's the truth.
All right. So Aye, you want to start with the question?
All right. So to begin with, it's important to just get a bit of your background and understand what pushed you into investing, what sparked that interest in investing. So sir, can you please tell us just a bit of your background? Where did you grow up, and what your early career was like?
Actually, I grew up in Lagos. High school in Lagos, that is primary school. Now, the secondary school, my parents believes in people going to thorough education. I was sent to a boarding school to mingle with people. And then right there at my school there in Odogbolu, I came across many guys who are wonderful from different parts of the country. And, those days we have people coming from with a lot of vehicle, conveying you from Kano. We just mixed together, and it was a wonderful thing. So, actually, I got to have interest in investment and stock market right from class 3. I came across a wonderful Ghanaian teacher who taught me economics. I couldn't remember his name now, but that man was just too wonderful. When it came to that particular public finance and economics then in class 3, and we were talking about income, expenditure, budgeting, he came to the market and talking about capital market. We were just talking, and then unfortunately, I have a wonderful father who always buy newspaper, and he will compel me to read newspaper every day if I'm at home. So, then those days we have Sketch and Guardian. So there's a column that you have the business column. And while we are learning this thing in secondary school for O-level WAEC, I will see this column, I will see the stock market, I will see Altrio, I will see Costain, I will come across Kingsway stores, Leventis, all these things like that. And I have an uncle there who happened to actual scholarship to US. He is a CPA, Certified Public Accountant, and he was accountant with ABB there. So anytime I'm in this vehicle going to his office, he doesn't play music. He just puts in one cassette, and this cassette are mainly foreign cassette. They are only teaching you finance, teaching you money, teaching how you. I just keep on wondering what is wrong with this man. Play Obey now, play Sonny in Allah. The man just every time we are going to office, now learning on how to make money. And actually, if you're in Lagos, you will know this person I'm talking about. The street is there in Okota, above Martin's Ideako. Wonderful. So I just keep on wondering, and then that is how. And once in a while, we tell you, young man, in every money that comes to your hand, that money is a fruit. And inside that fruit, there's a seed. It is a sin to eat the fruit and throw away the seed, or you eat the seed. Eat the fruit, plant the seed. So as a young boy there, I'm very curious. My father actually loved me moving with those people who are successful. Say this boy is always just, he read paper, he read this. So from there, I started capturing. And from there, I started, and then it was very easy, small pocket money. I told my uncle, he said, no, go to post office. Normally send my pocket money to me through post office, through money order, postal order. So we'll go there and tell them, how can I buy shares? Say, you are too young. Wait until 18. All these things like that. So that was how.
Wait till
yeah, 18. That was that. But along the line, I
there
would
should be no age limit to make money making. My opinion, no age limit to money making.
Yeah, there should be no age limit.
That's what they did then. They limited me. But I have to just find a way through which to buy the first stock there, which was actually First Bank. I think it was about 3 hours something there. It was First Bank I bought there. First, before
First Bank, your first share.
Yes. First Bank was my first share there. So that was just, and that's how everything started. It was just a few shares. So like that, I started. Along the line, my uncle was telling me, will you go attack accounting? But when the school start came out, he saw it. He said, young man, you cannot join me. Your result is too good. Go and be a medical doctor. I said, no, Lala, I don't want to see blood. I don't want to see blood. So my father at along the line, one of my uncle, and I said, okay, but you are good in numbers. You are good in numbers. You can see your economics is good. Your chemistry is good. So what do you want? So an uncle of mine, the doctor said, okay, no problem. As good as you are, will you play with chemistry? I said, I love chemistry. Said, okay, go and do pharmacy. That's all.
Oh.
And that's all. So, but along the line, they told me while I was doing pharmacy, I was still doing those things. So while I was in UNN, I come across this Times International. So I got a little, I was fortunate to have some fun. So I will go to newsstand, I will buy Times International, then I will buy Nigerian Soccer by the Sonny Ojaguaze. I normally follow football. So I will read both Times International, I will read sport. But at a point in time, while I was in international, I was getting used to economic aspects. I don't know what is taking me there. I was studying pharmacy, but I never leave it. So from there, if I have extra fund, I'll buy stock and just drop it there. I'll buy stock and just drop it there. That's just stock. So later on, my father, most of the stock then, you send dividend to your post office boss. My father will go to post office boss, pick some of this dividend paper. He will be looking at what is all this. Now took it to my uncle. When he now shows my uncle, say, this is money. Your son is already making money. My father said, what do you mean? What kind of money is this? So that was how the whole thing became serious. So my father brought everything one day. So one day I came on holiday. He now said there's a meeting with one of my uncle. I didn't know they have discussed so much. So we sat down and he said, what are these ones? My uncle have already taught my father the value of stock market. But my father, being a local person, was still believing, why not fixed deposit? He believed in fixed deposit. So my uncle was able to teach him a lot of good things about prospect of this, what he could do. So when my uncle came, that day, he just grabbed me. He was happy. He knows about people that have shares, but he has a little, but he doesn't take it serious. So he was so lucky. So please do it very well. Doing it. If you have 5 kobo, you do. And then it was small money. Maybe with 2,000, I'll buy something. 3,000, 5,000. Sometimes not too much. So just leave it there. So all those dividend warrants, my father keep on keeping them for me. And at a point, he said, oh, if this is your way, we'll support you. Continue to move on. And that's just the way it is. And I was fortunate. I would say something. I was very fortunate. I would say something, which is very, 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 very unique. The first place I did my internship as a pharmacist, I will not forget that man. His brother happened to be the chairman, board of director, Nigerian Bottling Company. Therefore, Mijebubo. So the man actually happened to be one of the first investors that all I call it, gave birth to GT Bank. So it's a pharmacist with born chemist. So when I do all of this, just came across one day, he saw me. You know, call, say, come. Pharmacist, come. You know, asked, what is happening? He said, boy, you have seen light. Don't joke with it. For every salary that comes, invest something. So that was all. That was all.
Interesting. That's interesting to hear. So you've been able to navigate your way through investment from a very early age, and you've happened to see people or meet people that were able to guide you and also point you to the right direction, which is very good. And I think that's one thing that we are lacking today as young investors. We don't really have mentors, people that are there to mentor us. A lot of the time we see negativity about the stock market. What is your take on that, about the negativity when important people come on air and say the stock market is not where you should be looking at as a young man to make money?
My brother, the truth is this. It's not the stock market that make money for you. Let me just tell you the truth. Take that particular statement. It's the knowledge of the stock market. The stock market is there, and it will be there forever and ever. It's just somebody telling me that, okay, pharmacy make money for me, being a doctor make money for me. No. It is the knowledge that is in business, what they call the unique selling points of any particular business. You have to have a proper knowledge of what you are doing. Nobody can tell me now that it's football that make money for Messi. People are playing football that are not making money. But the knowledge of the game and then the skill he has, they are raw skill. He has been able to polish it and make it look lucrative that whoever sees him see values in him. All of us have this little knowledge, like raw diamond. If you don't polish that diamond will not be valuable. You will sell it cheap. And whoever pick it up, if anybody that has value pick it up, God help you. If after some years, the person doesn't come and show you that thing you sold at Kobo and come and show you that it's worth millions of naira. That is not the stock market itself. The knowledge of the stock market matters because the stock market is up and down. Every business is up and down.
You've given us your background, but I would also like to hear what sparked your interest in investing. So how did you get started? What sparked that interest in putting money to work?
Okay. My father actually practiced something in my house. I'm the firstborn. So he has this habit of buying brown envelopes. And when I'm at home, he will hand over the brown envelopes to me. And once he comes, he will bring his own particular income, which is more or less his take home. He's not collecting salary. He's actually a little businessman. He will not say, okay, share this money into the envelope of water rate, envelope of NEPA bill, envelope of food, envelope of school fees. So brown envelope, we share the money there. So I happen to be the custodian of those money. So when they ask for money for food stuff, we go and pick. If it got finished and we have money in water rate, you say, okay, borrow from there, use it. So that is what we are doing. And along the line, he always tell me story. He said, young man, you should always have little money aside. So at a point in time, when he's saying those things, he will telling me that it is not monthly salary that makes you okay. He's not collecting salary. But he was telling me that I should be putting money aside for emergency situation. That was what I learned from him. But my coming out from school and my exposure to Times International and some other little things, I started learning about investment. That this money you put aside might not do well in savings. Why don't you put it where the money can do for more money?
Yes.
There was a year where Times International really sparked my interest seriously. What happened that year is I was in UNN. I read that Times International and I was reading about how Bill Gates just started doing some things. So it was from there I started having interest. While I'm having interest, the interest took me to people who have done well. That's how when I came across the name like Warren Buffett. From Warren Buffett, I started hearing about intelligent investor. Naturally, but I've been reading newspaper. I love reading books. So I was spending some of my money reading some things and then understanding, okay, if you put this aside, you might be able to retire at a very young age. So that was how it becomes my interest. But it becomes a very strong interest. Let me just tell you, the very moment Fola Adeola left GT Bank at a very young age, I was reading a paper that Fola Adeola just felt he was leaving GT Bank and he wanted to retire. And I look at how young this man is, and then I was buying Stock Watch then, Financial Times, Business Day. There's Business Times those days when we had daily times. So we read all those stories, and those things make these things actually interesting. That I found that if I do it, my old age will be better. That is just all.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I like what you've said basically about if you save money, the money is saved, yes, but the money is not yielding for you. Actually, putting the money to work
Yes.
will probably do more for you, will probably yield more for you. I think this is a very interesting wisdom. I even learned this from The Richest Man in Babylon. I think this book was a book that was recommended on the platform that we all met in. And I really love that book. I really love that wisdom behind that book. And I think one other thing it seems to be a theme amongst people who are very good at investing is the early exposure that they get from their parents, often from loved ones in their family. And it's a very, very unique experience that parents are able to introduce their children as early as possible into the world of investing. Moving on to the next question, I don't know, have you made any mistakes in investing? I know this is something that all investors always go through, but I would like to know what are some of the mistakes that you've made in your investing journey, and what have you learned from those mistakes?
I will tell you a lot of mistakes, lots of mistakes, because at the earliest stage, I never have understanding of the metrics, ability to be able to study what financial accounting, study financial statements. I didn't have those things. So I was buying based on information, but I'm very careful actually. When I started doing it, I joined a good stockbroking firm. Meristem has actually been good to me. So I do get advice from them. In fact, when I came to Kano, I later on joined CSL. CSL has their branch in FCMB branch along Murtala Muhammad Way in Kano there. So when I go there, I will share with my stockbroker. So sharing with them give me caution not to run into some errors. But along the line, I still made mistake because I bought some which I shouldn't have based on information, and I lost it. I lost money in Savannah Bank. I lost money in Security Assurance Bank. So that kind of a thing. But those things, in my maturity now, I won't call it mistake. I will call it the learning process. Because there's a book written by John C. Maxwell, which says we win some, we lose or learn some. And from that book, I actually got encouraged not to bother myself again. And I have to do my due diligence properly before I buy. But even right now, I'm still making mistakes. Just like we're talking about some little thing that happened within recent time. I do study financial accounting. I don't even say I want to study the stocks I hold. I study beyond the stock I'm holding. And I study further. I had information about somebody trying to invest in fertilizer. So some of those particular small error. And I didn't go in big. But I was just being cautious. Say this is rumor. But buy the rumor. Just wait for the news to come. But when the news came out now, I felt it's becoming a rally that I cannot jump into. So there are errors in this business, but we all have to accommodate and learn to move on, and then use that one as a learning template to do better in times to come.
Interesting. That's a very insightful response from you. Now, the next question I would like to ask you, from making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, now, how do you select your stocks? How do you do that?
For me to go into any stock, I do my due diligence. In fact, let me just say that I go beyond the stock I'm holding. Any stock that I hear about, I quickly look for their financial reports. So I go on NGX, click on financial report. If I can download and read on my laptop, I'll do that. But some, I will print them out and go through the document one by one. I'm going to look critically. There are things I'm looking for in any particular report. One of the major things I'm looking for is management integrity. Are the management having good integrity? Have they been careful about people's money? Are they even careful about their own money? Because Yoruba will say that the person that will sew clothes for you, kindly look at the kind of clothes he's wearing. If he's not wearing a good clothes, he may not be able to sew a good clothes for you.
Yes.
So I'm very, very careful. First thing, management integrity. I look into that critically. And I'll look at the particular stock. What kind of sector is this company? The sector, how do they make money in that sector? Is it a sector that make money all year round, or is a sector that we have the cash crop, we have the one that make money all round? Like in those days when you have things like Michelin, which is tire, tire making industry, tire plantation in all this Southwest, it's an all year round cash crop. So we have to look at the kind of sector it is. Is this sector also affected or influenced by some other things like going into pharmaceutical industry? Part of the money must go back into research and development before you talk about giving back. So I do all those ones, but the financial accounts, I'm looking at management structure, the sector. I will look at the totality of the current liability and current asset. If your current asset is lower than liability, I have to look at so many things. What are the management projections? Do they have a good vision? Is the vision they have in line with some other things I've had before? Because one of my books says you must know where you're coming from, know where you are, and know where you are going. That is the foresight and the insight. So if I'm looking at something like Ella Lake now in the light of Presco and Okomo, I know I bought Presco when Presco came in, when Oshunke was the chairman. And then it was just 5 naira when I bought it then. And I saw the project. I saw what Nestle is trying to do to harness some things from Presco. So I would look at it, okay, you are going this way. What are your forecasts? What are your projections? So your projection tell us, you have good future. We are buying into the present and we are buying into the future. And at any point in time, your future becomes shaky. We quickly just find our way. That is just it.
Okay.
So what will trigger your exit? So what are the things that you look at for that will trigger that exit?
Okay, good. Some of these things may not be applicable to all retail investors. They may not be vast in this knowledge. Let me give a good example. I'm not saying buy, I'm not saying don't buy. Aye is here with me and we've been chatting a lot. If you look at Vitafoam, I've been holding Vitafoam for years. Last year, their result was flat. And they begin to have that lower turnover for the past 2-3 years. What if I have a stock? I'm looking at your growth in turnover. I always want a stock that have average of annual growth in turnover, nothing less than 15%. If you're having consistent 20% growth in turnover annually, I will still stay with you. Do you use turnover very well? Do you make very good use of it by having a lot of reserve and you create opportunity for expansion? That is, I'm talking about your asset is improving. Because if your asset is not improving, liability is getting over asset, I'm skeptical about that stock. I begin to watch. Immediately, Vitafoam was having that flat account for the past 2 years. And I sold some parts. I know I've been there for long. I bet a lot of money. I know my bonus have been there. I can now pull out a little chunk. I knew I enter at a very low price. So it's okay. While I look at the future, the beauty is that while I'm doing that, I'm being cautious because a good management will definitely do rejuvenate its particular strategy. Just like what First Bank is doing now. But if you are not doing that within a couple of 3 years, I give you maximum 1, 2, 3 years, I'm going to do something fast. That is just it. So, 1, your turnover must be growing consistently with nothing less than 15 to 20% annually. Your asset must also be growing in line with your turnover. I'm not so much bothered about dividend. That's what people don't know. I'm not a dividend investor. I'm concerned about my money growing. I'm concerned about growth. And that is why I am a good ardent shareholder or probably believer in stock that is growing in share price regularly. So that is just it. Because I know I can quickly cash out and go to another place and make more money. Because I'm interested in multiplication, not just little drops of 10 kobo coming in like dividend. It's good when it comes in. I have dividend stock. But I'm more interested in multiplication because let us be sincere with ourselves. Simple to every investor. Subtraction is not good for anybody. Addition is a bit okay. But when you see multiplication, it is fantastic, sir.
Agreed. We completely agree with you. And I think we've also discussed this on the podcast that we have different investors. We have those who are interested in dividends. We have those who are interested in capital appreciation. We have those who are interested in both. And interestingly enough, we have those that focus on the capital appreciation, but they still get their dividends either way because the quality of companies that they focus on, the quality of companies. Yes.
That is it. That is it, my brother. Quality of companies.
So it's interesting, and we love what you said so far, so good. And I think I completely agree with you about the growth and the performance of a company should inform an investor's exit strategy. And if that company begins to show signs of deterioration, like you said, it's always good to monitor them, but there are also other opportunities as well. And that's the beauty of the stock market. You can stay very liquid.
Exactly.
You can buy into a company, and if that company begins to underperform, there are so many other companies you can just liquidate. Even if not all your investment, you can always liquidate and buy into those other companies. So this is a very interesting lesson that you've pointed out, and I think I'm in complete agreement. Mo, did you have anything to add?
Well, he has just opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I've not been able to see before, despite all these years being in the stock market, which is something good. That's why you need to interact with great minds and share ideas. So you see how other investors, they think and what is the reason behind their investment, where they put their money into. The analogy you just made, I think I learned a lot from it, and I might probably go back and look at my own strategy and see if I can borrow some leaf from what he has just informed us now. And I hope whoever that is listening, that is trying to get into the stock market, will be able to also learn something important from what Oga Tayo has been giving us. This information, some people, they can just write a book and they sell it, they monetize it, but it's coming in free, which most people will not appreciate. We don't really like freebies. Sometimes in freebies, you get a lot of stuff from freebies.
Sure.
So that being said, I want to ask a question.
Okay,
what
sir.
advice do you have for new investors, people that are thinking about coming into the stock market, having at the back of your mind that the majority of the public in Nigeria, they are very distrustful of the stock market? What would be your advice to these new people that are trying to get into the stock market? All right, listeners, we've come to the end of the first part of this interview. One of the goals of starting this podcast is to ensure that each episode is not long and boring. And in keeping with that goal, we've decided not to release the entire interview in one episode, as it would be too long and boring. Next week, we plan on releasing the second part of this interview. Until then, have a nice weekend. Thank you for listening to another episode of the favorite podcast that brings insight to the Nigerian stock market. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To get more episodes like this, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, as well as on our website. All this information is available in the show note below this episode. Until we bring you another episode your way next week. Bye for now. TNI Podcast is executive produced by Moody. This episode was edited by Rona at Rock Quarry Village Studio.